Hello and welcome back to the Sabbath document series. Today we're going into part 2 or 3 of this, where we left off at evidence number 9. And just before we begin, as you can see this video here, with the mouse at the bottom near the like button, hover it over the video, and on the bottom right you see the gear that says settings. Click that, scroll up, you see playback speed. Click that, scroll down, and you can click 1.75 or times 2 speed, and you'll see that it makes the video go by faster. The purpose of this is that I'm pretty slow at speech at times, and we have some gaps and pauses, so I'd advise you to speed up the video just to make myself be more bearable to listen to. You'll still be able to understand what I'm saying. Alright? So, evidence number 9. The next sign is that the Bible describes that it would receive a deadly wound. And I saw one of its heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Revelation chapter 13, verse 3. So this beast, the papacy, would receive a deadly wound. Verse 10 now of Revelation 13 will describe what the papacy did in the past, historically, and what would happen to her. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Revelation chapter 13, verse 10. I should have just read the underline there. But anyway. So we should ask now, when historically did the papacy lead people into captivity, and when did the papacy persecute God's saints, which would lead to her ultimately being or receiving that deadly wound and being brought into captivity? So we have the period of 538 AD through 1798. So what happened to the papacy in the year of 1798? Already covered this historic event in another study with French General Berthier, and brought the papacy into captivity, and we know from that time the papacy lost its civil power, and the papacy has not gained back that civil power as she had back then yet. So Revelation 13 verse 3 talks about a deadly wound, and Revelation 13:10 explains what that wound was. That the Pope would go into captivity, which is imprisonment, and he would die. Remember, it's the same measure you mete unto others. What you do to others goes right back to you. Judge not, that ye be not judged. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again. Matthew chapter 7, verse 1 to 2. Or I should say Matthew 7, verse 1 through 2. Anyway, this is a picture of the Pope being led into captivity. Okay, continuing on. So I'm just going to read this front part here. You guys can pause and look at this, but I'm just going to read this front part here. In 1798, French General Louis Alexandre Berthier, acting under orders from the French government, marched into Rome, overthrew Pope Pius, I honestly don't even know that number, and established the short-lived Roman Republic. This event, orchestrated by the French revolutionary forces, symbolized a major blow to the papal authority and was seen by some groups as the fulfillment of prophecy. Okay? This is confirming the date of 538 to 1798 for the 1,260 prophetic days, or literal years, prophecy. Though the Pope was put in prison in 1798, losing that civil arm, and the Pope took the helm of the Roman Catholic Church, but it never regained that temporal power, that civil authority, using the states to carry out its dogmas. its persecution of opposers and dissenters until these last days. Evidence number 10. The Bible talks about the deadly wound being healed. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. Revelation chapter 13, verse 3. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Revelation chapter 13, verse 11. And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles, which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword, and did live. Revelation chapter 13, verse 14. So since the Pope, the papacy, was ruling the world before receiving the deadly wound, having both civil and religious power, this means the Pope will receive this same power when the deadly wound is healed. And based on what we see now in current events in this world, we see that we are heading to that time. So when did the papacy's deadly wound begin to get healed? Note, the complete healing of the deadly wound is still in the very near future. This note was taken in 2025, October 15th. We can't use future evidence today to confirm the beast is the papacy, because the deadly wound being completely healed is a future event. It has not happened at this time of taking these notes, same date I mentioned before. So we want to look at historic events for evidence that confirms that the deadly wound began to be healed. She lost her temporal power. So when did she begin to receive that temporal power? We see when the Pope was put into captivity, and based on history, in the year 1929. We see Benito Mussolini in Italy, who actually handed the woman, the Catholic hierarchy, this piece of land in Rome. So they received their seat back as civil authority. This is the Vatican, an independent nation, right there in Italy. There is a country in the world smaller than New York City Central Park, and one with a population smaller than a typical high school class. Based on landmass, Vatican City is the smallest country in the world. Situated on the western bank of the Tiber River, Vatican City's 2-mile border is landlocked by Italy. The official seat of the Pope of the Catholic Church since 1377. Vatican City was not declared an independent state until the Lateran Treaty of 1929. The Lateran Treaty, just reading inside the red box, upon ratification of the Lateran Treaty, the papacy recognized the state of Italy with Rome as its capital. Italy, in return, recognized papal sovereignty over the Vatican City, a minute territory of 44 hectares, 109 acres, and secured full independence for the Pope. A number of additional measures were agreed upon. Article 1, for example, gave the city of Rome a special character as the center of the Catholic world and place of pilgrimage. Article 20 stated that all bishops were to take an oath of loyalty to the state and had to, continuing on. You guys can read the rest of that if you want to. Some people have claimed that in 1929 that the deadly wound was already fully healed. That claim is incorrect. For the deadly wound to be healed, the papacy must do all it did before 1798. She has not begun to do so. Note, also in 1929, the Vatican was not a world superpower. That is 10 irrefutable evidence that the beast with the mark is the Vatican. Now, along with these 10, we want to address other characteristics of the papal beast. Why? Because when that deadly wound is completely healed, what her traits are, she is going to manifest again in these last days. By the way, who is it that will heal that deadly wound? And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword, and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Revelation chapter 13, verse 11 through 17. In verse 12, does that say Italy? No. Benito Mussolini? No. So just reading the underline here, because we already went through this. Saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast. So it's not Italy, but Protestant America. Is that still in the future? Again, 2025, October 15th, this note was taken. The answer is yes. The United States of America. So seeing the 4 beasts here, right? And then now we are going to read Daniel chapter 7, verse 1 through 7. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream, and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream, and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake, and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea. And 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse from one another. So like we just saw here. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And behold, another beast, a second like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Daniel chapter 7, verse 1 through 7. So those 4 beasts are also mentioned in Revelation chapter 13, verse 12, which reads, And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. Revelation chapter 13, verse 2. This confirms that Daniel chapter 7 is connected with Revelation 13, and that the beast is the little horn. Furthermore, The papacy has the characteristic traits of those four beasts or four kingdoms, namely Babylon, which is the lion, Medo-Persia, which is the bear, Greece, which is the leopard, and the Roman Empire, which is the dragon power. Read Revelation chapter 13, verse 1 again. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Revelation chapter 13, verse 1. Since the leopard is mentioned first, the leopard is Greece. What was ancient Greece known for at the time of its rise in 331 BC? False education, false wisdom. And the reason for saying false education and false wisdom is because it was teachings from Egyptian mythology. That's number one. Also, the reason why people rejected Christ at his first advent was because of Greek education. For after that, in the wisdom of God, the world by wisdom knew not God. It pleased God by the foolishness of preaching to save them that believe. For the Jews require a sign, and the Greeks seek after wisdom. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 21 through 22. There is another study document to be made upon the first advent of Christ, where it shows that the people that were there who rejected Christ actually should have easily known that the person that Christ, the one that they were rejecting, was the actual, or is the actual Christ. Anyway, that's a study for another time. We'll get into that later. Anyway, by God's grace. Continuing on. It says the Greeks seek after wisdom, but one particular event in the Bible shows that Greek education causes people to reject Jesus, even the gospel, and we can see that in the ministry of the Apostle Paul. Now while Paul waited for them at Athens, his spirit was stirred in him when he saw the city wholly given to idolatry. Therefore he disputed he in the synagogue with the Jews, and with the devout persons, and in the market daily with them that met with him. Then certain philosophers of the Epicureans, you guys know that word, and of the Stoics, you guys know that one too, encountered him. And some said, "What will this babbler say?" Others some, "He seemeth to be a setter forth of strange gods, because he preached unto them Jesus and the resurrection." And they took him and brought him unto Areopagus, saying, "May we know what this new doctrine whereof thou speakest is? For thou bringest certain strange things to our ears. We would know therefore what these things mean. For all the Athenians and strangers which were there spent their time in nothing else, but either to tell or to hear something new, some new thing." Then Paul stood in the midst of Mars Hill and said, "Ye men of Athens, I perceive that in all things ye are too superstitious. For as I passed by and beheld your devotions, I found an altar with this inscription, To the unknown God, whom therefore ye ignorantly worship, him declare I unto you. God that made the world and all things therein, seeing that he is Lord of heaven and earth, dwelleth not in temples made with hands, neither is worshipped with men's hands, as though he needed anything, seeing he giveth to all life and breath and all things. Acts chapter 17, verse 16 through 25. Answer: Greek education. The Greeks sought after wisdom. Also in the time of Paul, we see that the Jews were being influenced heavily by Greek philosophers, and thus many of them rejected the gospel of Paul. A. Who was the first king of the kingdom of Greece? Answer: Alexander the Great. B. Where did he establish his center of education? Answer: Alexandria, Egypt. Note: Today, there are Egyptian symbols mixed with Catholicism. The pharaohs used a serpent hat. Likewise, the Pope has a serpent fish-like hat. Additionally, the pharaohs were mummified to preserve their bodies, and the popes are preserved so that their bodies don't rot. What is Egypt and Pharaoh known for in Scripture? And Pharaoh said, "Who is the Lord, that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I know not the Lord, neither will I let Israel go." Exodus chapter 5 verse 2. Answer: atheism. The papacy has an atheist trait that is devilish. Pharaoh put himself in the place of God, just as the Pope makes himself God. What did Pharaoh and his household receive because of their sins, and what will Babylon, the papacy, receive for her sins? And the Lord said unto Moses, Rise up early in the morning, and stand before Pharaoh, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord God of the Hebrews, Let my people go, that they may serve me. For I will at this time send all my plagues upon thine heart, and upon thy servants, and upon thy people, that thou mayest know that there is none like me in all the earth. Exodus chapter 9, verse 13 through 14. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. Revelation chapter 18, verse 4. What was Medo-Persia, the bear, known for when it rose to power in 538 BC? All the presidents of the kingdom, the governors and the princes, the counselors and the captains, have consulted together to establish a royal statute, and to make a firm decree that whosoever shall ask a petition of any god or man for 30 days, save of thee, O king, he shall be cast into the den of lions. Now, O king, establish the decree, and sign the writing, that it might be not changed, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which altereth not. Wherefore King Darius signed the writing and the decree. Now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went into his house, and his windows being open in his chamber toward Jerusalem, he kneeled upon his knees 3 times a day, and prayed, and gave thanks before his God, as he did aforetime. Then these men assembled, and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God. Then they came near and spake before the king concerning the king's decree. Hast thou not signed a decree, that every man that shall ask a petition of any god or man within 30 days, save of thee, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions? The king answered and said, The thing is true, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which altereth not. Daniel chapter 6, verse 7 through 12. Then these men assembled unto the king, and said unto the king, Know, O king, that the law of the Medes and Persians is, that no decree or statute which the king establish may be changed. Daniel chapter 6, verse 15. If it please the king, let there go a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the law of the Persians and the Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti come no more before the king Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she. Esther chapter 1 through 19. Known to have laws which cannot be altered, laws that cannot be changed. The Persians were ruling in the time of Esther. What did Haman want from Mordecai and the Jewish people? After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, and advanced him, and set his seat above all the princes that were with him. And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence. Then the king's servants which were in the king's gate, said unto Mordecai, Why transgresseth thou the king's commandment? Now it came to pass, when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. So I should have said this around verse 3, but keep in mind, right, that Revelation says that basically Protestant America wants people to bow to the image, and those who will not bow to the image, they want those people to basically be killed. So we're seeing what that looks like in these verses being read right now, right? What happened before in the past is going to repeat itself. And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, also you can see that in Daniel with the Hebrew boys, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath. And he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had showed him the people of Mordecai. Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai. Esther chapter 3 verse 1 through 6. So this is dealing with the topic of worship. Haman wanted Mordecai to bow to him, otherwise he would die. B. Note, the papacy has people bow down to the Pope when they come to visit him, a symbol of false worship. It's no wonder they have removed the second commandment in Exodus chapter 20, verse 4 through 5. When leaders go before the Pope, what do? They bow before the Pope, kiss his hand. We must bow before no man. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, etc. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. It's no wonder the papacy removed the second commandment dealing with idolatry, because they wanted people to bow to them. What was Babylon, the lion, known for when it rose to power in 606 BC? In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, a king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem, and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God, and he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. Daniel chapter 1, verse 1 through 2. Daniel and the Hebrew boys wanted to change the diet of what Babylon was serving them, to go from that to go to God's plant-based diet. And the king appointed them that a daily provision of the king's meat and of the wine which he drank. Oh, and just to be clear of like examples of plant-based diet, so like fruits and veggies and stuff like that, right? Anyway. And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now among these were of the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names, for he gave unto Daniel the name of Belteshazzar, and to Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael of Meshach, and to Azariah of Abednego. Daniel chapter 1, verse 5 through 7. Babylon's diet was stomping over God's health message. And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your faces worse liking than the children which are of your sort? Then shall ye make me endanger my head to the king. Daniel chapter 1 verse 10. So if they did not go along with the mandate, not just the health of the papacy, they would be killed. So this nation is a persecuting power historically. And cinnamon and odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil and fine flour and wheats and beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men. Revelation chapter 18 verse 13. Keep of note of the souls of men at the last part there. Standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. Revelation chapter 13, verse 10. So the trait of Babylon is to use the state to enforce a health mandate, and quote, if you don't go along with the state's health mandate, you should be killed, end quote. Are we seeing that today? Yes. Answer, enslaving people, captivity. Note, people in the pandemic lost their jobs. The papacy will also enslave people once its deadly wound is healed. Ancient Babylon also mandated health protocols with persecution for those who disobey. Similar occurrences took place globally during, probably shouldn't have said that word, but I'm a nobody YouTuber, so it probably doesn't matter. But the pestilence 19 crisis, I should have just said that. Anyway, papal vaccine campaigns offered punishments towards 200 years ago. Also, you know what? If you guys notice a awkward skip just before hearing what I'm saying right now, it's because I am getting rid of this word verbally. Maybe it's okay to still keep it here in text, but I'm gonna keep my verbal language of this out. Continuing on. So as you can see, papal vaccine campaigns offered punishments reward 200 years ago. When popes were king, they ordered all their subjects in the papal states to be vaccinated, using punishments and rewards to convince the hesitant. Vatican News recounted how, as a smallpox epidemic swept central Italy at the end of the 1700s, it is 1700s, right? Or yeah, 1700s, and beginning of the 1800s, Pope Pius, you know that number, threw the full weight of his temporal power behind a vaccination campaign. The legislation specified that to obtain subsidies, benefits, or premiums, it was necessary to provide the certificate showing that the applicant, being the father of the family, has had the vaccination, said the Vatican News report May 7. Refusing the vaccine was defined as reprehensible conduct, punishable by a loss of benefits. Quote, the Pope set up committees to oversee the vaccination campaign and tied the licensing of physicians to their willingness to vaccinate patients, the report said. End quote. And we do have the link here of what we're showing here. I can put this in the description of the video. Hopefully I remember to do so. Quote, by their words, they'll either be justified or condemned. End quote. Pope meets with head of World Health Organization. As you can see here, Pope Francis met with Dr. Tedros, and the Holy See donated to WHO's emergency fund. So yeah, for this you guys can pause and read that if you want to. Revelation 18 verse 23 says, and the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, speaking to Babylon. And the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. And then this is Revelation 18 verse 24 now. And in her was found the blood of the prophets and of the saints, and of all that were slain upon the earth. And definition of sorceries, pharmakia in the Greek lexicon dictionary. Pharmakia. So that's what it's talking about when it's talking about sorceries. When God is talking about sorceries, right? I have a link here as well. What are the traits of Rome? And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth was as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. Revelation chapter 13, verse 2. Focusing on the seat and great authority. We already covered power, tongue, and nations. What does the seat represent, and what does it represent in the last days? The seat is a union of church and state. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12 through 14. King, seat, throne, and congregation. So church. This is church and state together. Connected to, note this is talking about the papacy, how much she hath glorified herself, and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Revelation chapter 18, verse 7. So we notice here the seat, but also notice it says, quote, I will be no widow, end quote, quote, which means she regains her husbands. The husbands points to who? The civil leaders, civil church and state. That's the seat. Now, going over great authority. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 2. When the righteous rule, people are rejoicing. But the wicked rule, the people mourn. Do we see a time of mourning coming in these last days? Yes. What did the papacy do historically when they were ruling the world? They persecuted God's people because they were not going along with their mandates. Forced worship, killing you, changing the health, it's all there. What happened back then will be coming back in these last days. That there's a time of mourning for God's people. For I am a man under authority, having soldiers under me. And I say to this man, Go, and he goeth. And to another, Come, and he cometh. And to my servant, Do this, and he doeth it. Matthew chapter 8, verse 9. So this authority is, quote, do as I say, end quote. Liberty of conscience is threatened. The papal power, working through her allies, can exercise great authority. Go, you must go, quote unquote. Or come, you must come, or else, quote unquote. Or do this, or else, quote unquote. Probably should have said it the other way, but anyway. They have to roll out a system that is all digital to control every single person. And that's how we know the end is near, because that's where the world is going. Because people are using digital stuff to track what you're doing, what you buy, what you see and log into, etc. The WEF, which stands for the World Economic Forum, said, quote, welcome to 2030. You owe/own nothing, and you will be happy, end quote. They are rolling things out right now. Again, notes taken on 2025, October 18. Revelation 18 gives us warnings to us, God's people, that we are to come out of Babylon because his anger will be very soon poured out upon her. If we are true members of God's family, we should not be going along with the papal system, Roman Catholicism, and Sunday worship. Get out before it's too late, which also means go to the country. Do not stay in the cities. There's already mentions and studies of this before, but hopefully by God's grace I'll make another study on country living in the near future. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 2. This is an encouraging scripture because when you see the righteous are ruling, the people are rejoicing. That points to an experience that we must have in these last days. Get your household in order. But when the wicked are ruling, That is the time of mourning. That lets us know there's a time of mourning coming, a time of trouble coming. And the experience we must have is the experience the three Hebrews had, Daniel and the three Hebrews had in their time of trouble. In their time of mourning, they were found faithful to God. They did not compromise their principles of truth. Why? Because they hitherto been faithful to Jesus on those small tests, those small times of trouble, everyday trials that led up to that great crisis. Hitherto meaning previously, formerly, earlier, so far, before, today, until now, beforehand, etc. God, through his word and prophets, have shown us what's coming in the future, so we know what's coming. So God is expecting us to find shelter under him, under God, to find your secret place of prayer under God, to be strengthened. Wrestle with God like Jacob did. For when that time of mourning comes, you're going to be rejoicing. Revelation chapter 13, verse 10. This is past tense compared with Revelation chapter 14, verse 12. This is present tense and the near future tense. So starting with verse 10 of Revelation 13. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword shall be killed, must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience of the saints. Revelation chapter 13, verse 10. Now the Bible gives an experience for those living in that time period. What time period? When the papacy was reigning and went into captivity between 538 and 1798. What was the experience of the saints of God? Here's the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. Revelation chapter 14, verse 12. Quote unquote, here is an adverb of time. Here is an adverb of location. 538 to 1798. Here is the patience of the saints. So the saints had what two things? Patience and faith. That is what the saints had in 538 to 1798. Now let's go to Revelation 14, verse 12 again, where the deadly wound is completely healed in the last days. Here's the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. Revelation chapter 14, verse 12. So what three things do the saints have now? They keep all the 10 commandments of God, have patience and faith. Note, quote, song is a weapon that can be used against discouragement, end quote. Sing the songs of Zion. Before Christ went to Calvary's cross, he went into Gethsemane to pray with a song. They sang a hymn. And that's what we should try to learn to do. Even if you can't literally sing, you could probably hum. So, singing a hymn, right? So, yeah. And this will be the link to it. Do have a summary here. But I think I'll just leave the summary of this in the description of the video. But yeah. Because this is a summary, I won't put all the scriptures here because they were already seen in the main study. And note 2, a fellow brother or sister made this summary. But yeah, I will put this in the description. It's a summary of this study. And the next video will be going over the warning signs. And I'll see you guys in the next one. God bless.